Hey everyone, how's it going? So in this little video we're going to be checking out some of the Bioactive tanks here, in particular the ones here in this rack, and I'll give you a little bit of an update about what I want to do to them. Welcome to Beach's Scaly Beasts, where I focus on the natural keeping of herpetofauna and marine aquaria. I hope you subscribe to the channel. So most of you guys have probably seen these tanks in the past. There's been not much changes for a little while now. Things have been kind of growing in, going a little bit wild. Some things thriving, some things not. You know, things just change and go around here. But, as I said, I've just given the glass a little bit of a clean up, so it's looking pretty good, looking pretty smick. So I figured I'd show you off a few of the critters and stuff that are hanging around in here, and have a little bit of a closer look, in particular in this rack, and give you a little bit of updates about what some stuff's going to be going on in here. So first up, on the top left hand corner of this rack, we have Wasabi, my youngest green tree python. There's a little guy over there. He's not doing too bad. I think he's honestly struggling to get hydrated enough. So I am making sure that at the moment I'm hand misting him. I'm also doing things like injecting rodents with a bit of water and stuff, because I just noticed that his skin was just not where exactly I'd like it to be. So anyway, all in all, he's doing pretty good. Love sitting up underneath his little heat pad there, his little heat panel rather. But the plants in here are going absolutely berserk. So yeah, there's a lot of colours and stuff coming out of this one in particular. I always forget the name of this one. I know this one here is actually a type of wandering dew. And that's starting to really sprout off and take over. There's a few little birds' nests and things in there which are going well. Yeah, pothos is always going to go mental. That's just what it does as a plant. But all in all, this tank's doing really, really well. The only thing that I've noticed recently was I had a little bit of a mold outbreak, so I just had to put a whole bunch more springtails in there just to try to clean it up. You can see a little tiny patch of it down there. But yeah, the little springtails are all over it at the moment, cleaning it up nicely. Yeah, all in all, very happy with how this little tank's going. We'll keep going and checking out a few others. So next to Wasabi's little tank there, we've got the Peron tree frogs. This little enclosure's going well. Not much to really update on this one. Everything seems to be happy and thriving in there. You can see one of my little speckly mates down there in the bromeliad. These little guys are growing like weeds. Don't know if you can see the other one that's hanging up there. Try to block the light out. Oh, there he is. So there's 3 of these guys in here. And usually over night time you can find them right down in this corner on this rock. That's their favourite spot for catching a feed. So they usually know that I feed over on that side. So yeah, all in all, these guys are doing really, really well. And they're awesome little frogs. Very underrated frogs in my opinion. And super simple to keep. So we're going to move on to this row of enclosures down here. As you can see, there's one that's been reconfigured a little bit so far. See if we can have a little sneaky peek over here. I can see one little frog hanging out up the top there. That's one of my northern sedge frogs, Latoria bicolor. So there are, believe it or not, 5 of those little guys in here. They can be very cheeky little guys, so I've got to be a little bit careful when I actually open up the enclosure to make sure that they themselves don't jump out. This enclosure's doing pretty good. Nothing really to report on. I forget what the name of this plant is as well. I'm horrible with names of plants, but that's gone absolutely bonkers. It's kind of hard to see from here, but the root system to it all behind there's so much of it in there. I think it's actually probably due for a bit of a haircut to see what happens if it grows out a little bit further. I don't know why, but the leaves always seem to just have a little bit of a dead patch on the end. All the new growth's reasonably good, but yeah, the little northern sedge frogs are doing fantastic in here. Plenty of cover for them to go and hide on. There you go, now the camera's picking him up and gone. Little guy hanging back there. I'm not going to get too much closer to him because otherwise he might bounce out of the enclosure. And that's the last thing I'm going to need. Is not to be able to catch a frog in here. So as you can see, the next enclosure over is looking very different. There's no animals in here at the moment. but there will be shortly. So this is an expander foam background that I've been working on. I've been building a whole stack of enclosures out that you will see a video on shortly as well. But yeah, I've been working my little heart out, and I think eventually I'm going to be doing these backgrounds or similar backgrounds on all of the enclosures here. You kind of see a couple here that are in progress. These guys have just had their first coat of pond sealer over the top of them. I'm working on 5 enclosures at the moment, including this one that's still sitting in the rack. So yeah, I'm going to be swapping some animals that are in these other enclosures into these ones, and then doing the same to the enclosures that they come out of. So it's going to be a bit of a all-over job of getting animals out of enclosures and into other ones. But I just want to be able to make a lot more usable space for my animals, and also stop them from seeing each other in different enclosures as well, because something I have noticed, since the sides of these aren't blacked out, they're all left clear, is a lot of the animals are trying to see bugs in other enclosures and are trying to get to bugs or whatever that are in the enclosures and potentially hurting themselves a little bit trying to catch other critters. So having these kind of all walled in just means that there's going to be a lot less stress for the animals. And, you know, in particular for things like leaf-tailed geckos and frogs, there's going to be a lot more usable space with 3 walls covered rather than just the 1 wall at the back. Something else I also want to do for these terrariums is actually rework the lighting. So for now, I've just been running 1 strip of T5 high output 6400 Kelvin light tubes above each one of these rows of terrariums. And I wouldn't mind trying an LED form that might last a little bit longer for the output. So I'm coming up and looking at a few different ideas there. But obviously I want to be able to try to keep roughly the same color spectrum, because it seems to be working pretty well for the plants. Something in that sort of 6000, 6400 range of Kelvin. Little guy's still sitting there. Yeah, just to be able to see if I can sort of improve everything happening, and maybe even work out some sort of cheaper use of light as well, but still improve the output. So moving over onto the enclosure here on the right, this is my Moritz leaf-tailed gecko enclosure. Hopefully we'll be able to see him. See if I can kind of encourage him out. Oh, he's actually over there on the back wall. There he is, doing his best chameleon impression. Blending in. Doing what a leaf-tail does. So yeah, you can see him clinging into that little gap. It's one of his favourite spots in the enclosure. But from a distance, you pretty much can't see him. But this little enclosure is doing really well. I've had to trim the plants back a few times now. You know, there's nothing too crazy in here, just a couple of little bits of parlor palm and an umbrella plant. But it all seems to do really well. Just recently as well, on both of these enclosures, I had to top up the soil level because it was getting pretty low. Just things were decomposing in there. So I've stacked it all out with a bit more leaf litter, just for all the bugs and critters and stuff that are getting around in here. This enclosure here, this is my northern velvet gecko. One of my northern velvet geckos. She's hiding over here at the moment. She's got a new enclosure in the works at the moment, so she's growing really quick. She must be asleep too. Yeah. Seriously got to be one of my favourite species here at the moment. Look at those awesome eyes. As you can see, she's growing very nicely. Beautiful mossy patterns and things to her. But yeah, she'll be going into the larger enclosure there. Once I get my finger out and really crack on. It's got a few more coats to do before I can actually put any plants or anything like that in there and get her into there, but yeah, she's a beautiful little animal. I just absolutely adore those eyes. So I'll take a quick look at the other 3 enclosures that I've got down here at the moment. Again, I'm going to be redoing every single Exo-Terra enclosure here in due course. I don't think I'm going to take on 5 at a time like I just have. I think I'll take them on one by one. But we'll see how we go. In particular, for things like these leafies, they're just going to be able to make so much more use of the space if they have 3 walls covered rather than just the back wall. I know they've got these vertical branches and everything coming down into the bottom of the enclosure, but they're going to have so much more space. They'll be less crowded on branches and things. There we go, you get a bit of a better look at her with the flash on. See all those details all over her body. Really hoping to get some young of these northern, well not northern leafies, these are the Wasabi leaf-tail geckos. Really hoping that I actually get some of the young out of them. I've had a couple of eggs laid recently. Be cool to get some babies out of these guys. And believe it or not, there are actually 5 of these little guys in here. Don't know if we'll be able to see any more. Usually they're all hiding around behind the lights, behind the logs and things, trying to get away from the light. But yeah, awesome little enclosure. Very, very simple to keep, but I'd like to do the exact same thing, just with 3 walls all the way around. And maybe try some different plants in there as well. I want to kind of change up plants in between enclosures. It gets a little bit tiring looking at the exact same thing in every enclosure with parlour palms and umbrella plants. At least I know they're surviving. But we want to make it a little bit different to look at. So now we come across into the red-eye tree frog tank. These guys are little destructive guys, that's for sure. Beautiful animals, but geez, at night they're all over the shop, bouncing around, going crazy. Unfortunately, some of the plants that I did put in this terrarium didn't like it so much. I pretty much lost the ficus pumila. I'm actually just trying to rejuvenate that now. They keep destroying the philodendron that I have in the corner here. It keeps trying to grow, but they keep destroying that. Something I have found that's gone pretty well so far is some of this wandering dew. And this little snake plant's holding on to life, but I might take that out shortly and rejuvenate that as well. They do really like this ivy though, so you know, I've got to give it to them. The plant can actually hold up to their destructiveness, and it seems pretty tolerant of the conditions and everything in here. But I will definitely be redoing this tank because these are one of the animals that I see always butting heads trying to get over into the Wasabi leaf-tail gecko enclosure, trying to get some crickets and stuff out of their tank. So I will try to resurrect this one, maybe try some different plants out with them as well. And I'm not the biggest fan of how the logs look in that tank either, so we'll figure out something different to do in there. So last but not least, on this little bioactive tank tour, is I've got my green stream frogs over in this tank here. I thought I might have been able to see one of them down in that hole. Usually you see a couple of them hanging out there. I think I can only see one at the moment. That's this little chunky monkey over here, sitting against the rock, trying to look all dark and innocent. Little drip wall's doing really well in this tank. The Java moss is starting to really grow through over on the wall. You can see it all kind of dripping down over there. The frogs absolutely love sitting underneath there at night, so whichever way I go with this tank, I'm definitely going to still incorporate that in here, because I think that's one of the best features of the tank, and the frogs absolutely love it. They love sitting down there getting hydrated. The only downside to doing that is I find that the soil that I've put in here just gets so overworked with, you know, it just holds moisture. It just holds way too much moisture. So I think going forward, what I'd probably end up doing is just a whole bunch of different mosses over the top, and I'd probably do away with the soil completely. I might even look at doing something like sphagnum moss or something down underneath there, some live sphagnum moss. But the umbrella plant's doing fantastic, and these guys love sitting over on the umbrella plant, so that's probably something that I'll leave in here going forward. It's really taken to being an aquatic plant, being, you know, put in the water there as well. Yeah, all in all, they're doing really well. Got a bunch of wisteria down here at the moment as well, just to try to give them something else to lay their eggs on should they want to breed for me this year. I'd really like to get some frog eggs of some description out this year. But I reckon it'll be between them and the common eastern froglets are my highest hopes. So I'm just going to throw in a little extra for bioactive tank tours. And here are the Boyd's Forest Dragons. These guys are doing fantastic. The ficus is definitely loving that extra light on top of it since doing that little upgrade. And these guys are really starting to look like adult Boyds now. They're looking so gorgeous. I'm growing like little weeds. I think I'm going to have to upgrade these guys' tank in no time. The rate they're going. But yeah, as you can see, they've destroyed most of the plants down low in the tank. And that ficus has really taken over, but I don't mind. I don't mind having a little bit more area for them to run around and climb around on. And they love getting in this bush at night and kind of hanging out in there and just sleeping in that security, so all the more power to them. Here's a good look at the little girl. And the little boy's just a stunner. Again, I have to thank Cooper from Coop's Reptiles for these guys. Awesome, awesome little dragons. So as I said, guys, I've definitely got my work cut out with me for making all these new tanks up. I don't think I'm going to use expanding foam again. It's just too much of a pain with, you know, little holes and things like that all over in the actual foam itself, and just trying to fill in gaps and stuff with paint. It's just such a pain. So one of my friends, Cam's, put me onto some insulation foam boards that I'm going to try out. And I reckon I'll probably like them a lot better than the expanding foam, I dare say. So you can see how like pocketed it is. If you get little gaps in it, like all this stuff, it's just so hard to fill. So once I finish these 5 tanks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then I'll try out the new method and go from there. So for now, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed watching this little video of my bioactive tanks that I've got here. A little bit of an update and a little bit of what's to come with all these little tanks. So I'm certainly a big fan of the Exo-Terra enclosures, as you can see. I think I'm up to owning about 22 enclosures now. I know we've only had a peek at these ones, but I do have a whole stack more as well that, again, I'm going to be rebuilding. So it's going to be a little bit of a tedious job, but stick with me anyway. I reckon one day I'm going to have a fantastic looking Exo-Terra room. So I'm working towards a goal. Let's just leave it at that for today. So again, guys, make sure you like the video, drop it a comment down below, tell me what you think, tell me some ideas that you might have or some ways that I could improve some stuff, because I'm happy to learn off everybody here. And make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Go and check out Teespring, get yourself some awesome reptile related merch. Link will be in the description below, as well as the Patreon link as well, so should you want to sign up to that as well. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you on the next video.